Welcome, everybody, to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Jared Mello, and I'm the Shepherd of Black Sheep. Today, I got caught up here because a consultation that was supposed to be happening didn't happen. But here I am now. And to answer a question from the chat here, yes, Dr. Salerno will be speaking to Dr. Eatonson in about a couple weeks. And we'll be orchestrating that on the channel here. It should be a very interesting debate slash discussion, and I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, after I go over this interview here with Sadia and Nick Cannon, there'll be some questions that you can ask me then too. But let's jump right in here, because what you're going to learn here is why narcissists cheat. But of course, they don't say this is the reason why. I'm going to give you a narcissist translation. So when Nick Cannon talks about his reasoning for why he does what he does, I'm going to give you the narcissist translation. So let's rock and roll here.
Let's get it. Once again, we are in a safe space and a brave place, not to be canceled, but to be counseled. And I have the honor, privilege, and pleasure of being counseled today, once again in our second session, with the amazing Sadia Khan.
Pleasure is all mine. Always a pleasure.
This is, first of all, you've helped so many people, specifically even men around the world, and your philosophy and your psychology based off of masculinity is what we've been discussing, in your 3M method, which I believe is phenomenal and will help so many men out there. So, you know, tap in with Sadia and her program. You could, what is the website?
Well, it's sadiacoaching.com, sadiacoaching.com, where you can master yourself, then master women, and then master relationships alongside with me along the way.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And our first session, we were talking about mastering self.
Yeah.
Now our second session is about mastering women.
Now, and even in that first session that we went over, there was no mastering of self in that. They were talking all about victims and how victims were the problem for the very most part. They weren't even talking about themselves or taking any accountability.
And we ended our last session, you asked a very...
Yeah, I was asking your desire to be with different women. Is it changing the woman or changing the sex? Is that what you're looking for when you...
So it's interesting that you, again, because I ask myself this often, and I, you know me, when I'm working on myself, I go seek answers. And I at one point, I thought I might have been addicted to sex, and I went into the therapy. I was like, do I gotta go to rehab? What I gotta do? Because people would say that to me, and I was like, I gotta understand it, because I honestly don't believe I'm addicted to the physical act, and I've done everything, or, you know, practicing abstinence, I mean, even celibacy, which is, those are two different things that I learned and understand, because, you know, celibacy is when you're saving yourself for marriage. And I did that at one point early on in my life through my, you know, walk in Christianity, faith relationship. There was a time I was engaged to somebody, and we're gonna say.
So to pause here real quick. First of all, I can't get over how smitten Sadia Khan is to be with the high status person here. It's obnoxious, but that's how narcissistic people are. They want to be around other high status and special people just like they think they are. Now, Nick Cannon thought, am I addicted to sex? Well, here's what it really is. And if he has a therapist that's worth their weight in salt, this is what they would say to him. They would say, well, you actually just have an addiction to narcissistic supply. You need other people or things to make you feel better about yourself. You need them to confirm your superiority. When you sleep with new women, it gives you a hit of narcissistic supply. Why do you eventually need to do that always? Because if you just get with the same person over and over again, the positive supply from that person wears off. So you need a new version of supply to give you that hit. But that hit always wears off, because this is the problem with pleasure. It is not joy. Joy comes from within. Pleasure comes from the outside. So he's going to keep on being on this hamster wheel. He might think it's a sex addiction. He might dress it up in any number of ways, but in reality, it's an addiction to narcissistic supply.
Gave ourselves, maybe we're gonna be celibate, and she cheated on us. But
See what happens when
see,
you're
you
faithful.
see, exactly. I tried to do it one time. It's her fault. But no, in all seriousness, I realized that I have the ability and the discipline to withstand, and I've done it before. But what I am addicted to is pleasing.
Pleasing. Ugh, I'm going to get into this in a second.
And attempting to, I want to say this correctly, because I was like the hopeless romantic, but it's more like I'm addicted. I'm in love with being in love.
Oh, okay. So those are good things to go over too. So when he says addicted to pleasing, what he probably means is when he makes women feel good about themselves or he gives them pleasure, it makes him feel powerful. It makes him feel special and superior. So that's why he says he likes pleasing, because he likes how it makes him feel. And then, as he said with the rest of this here, addicted to being in love, love being in love. What is that? Again, it's the same way to say addicted to narcissistic supply. He loves the honeymoon period. He loves the love bombing period because this is when they meet somebody new. That person is working as a great source of narcissistic supply. But as always, no one person works as a great source of supply permanently, especially from positive supply. Eventually, what happens is the devalue occurs. And when the devalue occurs, the negative supply becomes more powerful than the positive supply. So then they switch. Or if you're a little more avoidant with it, as Nick Cannon might be, you just go to the next person. You go to the next person because your main source of supply isn't working as well as they once used to.
And so I do have those issues with, those early stages of love
Right.
bombing, the honeymoon,
Excitement.
I love that. And then I know I've learned that can't last forever. And it's like, so it looks like at times it probably can be manipulative because I'm gonna pour it on thick at the beginning because of the chase, because of the newness, because of the desire.
Yeah.
And like, oh wow, I met a beautiful woman.
So what he means by love is use, control, exploit. He does not mean a healthy version of adult love. He means those things. That is really what he means, because what he's talking about isn't genuinely loving a person. It is absolutely using a person. And that's why it wears off, because when you're using a person, that is not sustainable. That is not going to be sustainable, especially if you're doing it for a feeling. If you're doing that for a feeling, it's just a matter of time before that wears off and you need to go to the next person. And again, if he's in treatment right now, maybe his therapist won't say it this bluntly, or his psychiatrist, psychologist, or whatever, but hopefully they're saying something like this to him.
I'm gonna send her flowers. I'm gonna find out what her favorite perfume is and her favorite designer. It's gonna show up in the boxes. Like, I'm literally like, The Notebook is my favorite movie. Like 50 Shades of Grey was like one of my favorite books. Like I'm trying to be that guy and be every woman's desire.
Are you addicted to her falling in love with you?
I think I am.
Okay.
I think that's and like that goes back into the pleasing aspect. So even when it comes to
What he's saying is he loves how when the woman falls in love with him, how it makes it feel about himself, how the woman makes him feel about himself. That is what they can get addicted to. They like that. It's not about the other person in any way. It's all about how the other person makes them feel.
sex, like I'm usually like, it's not good sex if she isn't pleased to ecstasy. Like I have to be like, yo, nobody put it down like that ever before in life. And that's when I'm like, okay, if it's about me, I can do without it. Like I can reach my peak in 30 seconds by myself in the shower if I need to.
So what he's saying is his version of supply is making the woman feel good. It makes him feel good and powerful and special to make the woman feel good. And he wants it to be so special because the more ecstasy the woman is in, the greater version of supply it is for himself. That's all.
You know, like I'm not that. To me, that's not intimacy.
And why does her falling in love with you matter so much?
I don't know.
Yeah, why?
I just told you why, Nick Cannon. You should watch this episode. I just told you why it happened. And Sadia Khan, if she knew anything, she would know the reason why too. But again, she is a self-proclaimed narcissist as well. She would rather be a narcissist than a victim, a pathetic victim in her words. And Nick Cannon is actually a diagnosed narcissist.
I don't know. Like even I'm like, does it go revert back to my upbringing and child? I don't know. I mean, I definitely grew up in a unorthodox.
Did you grow up with,
household.
when you were really young, like teenage years, did you get many girls? Were they
Absolutely.
So
And
was
it's
it an
always
access-
come really easy.
It's never been a lack of access.
I was the kid, like, you know, I was in kindergarten, the girls were chasing me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've just been somebody that always, had a love for women. And
It sure sounds like there's a genetic component to this, doesn't there? If he's been this his whole life, and that wasn't parenting, that sounds like these are his inherent traits that he was born with, and he's trying to find a way to explain them, when in reality, a large part of it was probably just genetic. It was going to be this way regardless of what his parents were like. Just like I mentioned in the interview with Dr. Campbell, or I should say Dr. Campbell mentioned it, he said, parenting is important, but it doesn't make much of a difference. This is why he says that, because we are who we are. A big portion of us is that genetic component. I think it discourages people to think of it that way, but in reality, I do think that's what's going on. And when I talk to Dr. Eatonson and Dr. Salerno, we're going to dive headfirst into that debate, the nature versus nurture debate.
they usually love me back. Like, so I've never had an issue. I never had a problem. I've always, other than, I mean, obviously my issue and problem became like too much. You know what I mean? Like, as I call it, access to excess.
Yeah.
And then when that gets, too much of anything, it's just like not enough. So finding that balance is what I've been dealing with. But like, if we're now talking about mastering women, like I feel like I have mastered women. Like I love them. Like I think Tupac said he wanted to sit down and meet with Prince because he loved women the same way that Prince loved. So I want to sit down with both of them in heaven because I could be like, guys, Prince, Pac, and Nick, we the same. We love women at that level.
It's just cringe how he's going off about this here too. And it's cringe again how smitten Sadia Khan is with him as well. It's just obnoxious. Because here's the thing, narcissistic people, they treat people in accordance to their power level or what you can do for them. Sadia Khan, if she sees someone that can't do anything for her, she'll probably treat them like trash, especially if those people criticize her. As we have seen this in the Abba and Preach videos, in the Goob videos, in the comment sections, how she treats people. Those people can do nothing for her, so you get a mean and nasty and narcissistic version of Sadia. And that's the real her. They say character is how you treat people that can do nothing for you. Sadia's character shines bright in those situations. But here I am with Nick Cannon, a completely different story. So you see this friendly, bubbly, smitten version of Sadia. And to me, it just reeks of fakeness.
Worship level,
you worship them at some stage?
Absolutely. In that reverence, honor, wanting to please and do everything I possibly can. But then my issue is once I feel like I got you where I want you, then my attention is to the next one to worship.
And that's what it is, right? It's not about the other person. It's not really about loving the other person or even being good in bed. It's just all about himself. He can say it's about reverence for the other person. He might say it's about making the other person feel great, but really it's all about him. Because if it wasn't about him, he wouldn't be able to use them up like that. He wouldn't be able to use and exploit them and then be on to the next conquest. Because when you do that, you are proving you don't care one bit about that other person, because maybe he does this love bombing thing and these women fall head over heels for him. And then when Nick is done with it, those women aren't also done with it at the same time. They still want him. But now that Nick is over it, he doesn't care and he's on to the next one. Meanwhile, the other woman is left devastated and broken. And then she probably finds content about narcissism and shakes her head in agreement and says, oh, yeah, that's just like Nick. Oh, yeah, that's just like Nick. But this is what they do. This is what they do. They're not seeing you as a human being. They're seeing you as something to use. And then again, his actions are completely proving this here. Should be easy enough for anyone who understands narcissism to see this, because it's pretty clear.
And it's like that, obviously,
And
no
then
one wants to be in a relationship.
But then do you
with
find
someone
yourself
like that.
more attached to then toxic women when that happens, because those women are harder to kind of impress, or does that not really happen?
I don't believe any women are toxic.
You don't think so?
I think that term, well, and I guess because that term has been thrown at me so much that I believe women can be emotional and at times overly emotional, and I value that.
Yeah.
I value a woman's emotion. I value a woman's intuition. All that passion. Like, I'm one of those that I was like, you so cute when you yell. You know what I mean? Like, I'm that guy. Like,
Yeah.
You turn me on when you're mad at me. Like, I value a woman's energy and passion and emotion, and especially, like, I can also take accountability. Like, if I fuck up, I know I'm gonna come. I came home late. She gonna be mad. Then I get to the challenge accepted. I get to try. I'm gonna rub your feet. I'm gonna do all of the things to kind of get you unmad. Like, I like that process. Like, I'm drawn to that type of energy.
So he's drawn to manipulating women out of their emotions, because when they're mad at him, they're not able to give him a good source of supply that he wants. He wants that positive supply from them. So he'll act like it's a challenge of sorts to change the woman's mood. And again, some of this can actually be good in some cases. Like, to not get sucked into the woman's emotions and yell right back at them. But ultimately, the best thing to do would be to not mess up to begin with, right? Not even need to be in the position to do this whole song and dance routine. But again, it's just all about him. It is not about the women in any way. It's all about him.
Okay.
So I'm just, and I've been really good at it. You know what I mean? And that's the thing where, you know, the average person from the outside looking in, like, why would 6 women agree to do that with him? Right? He ain't that cute. Right? He ain't amount of money in the world would make me like, but the level of love and care that I attempt to put forward, I really feel like that's one of my goals in life is to, like, how can I please this person? How can I give her everything that she's ever wanted? Especially now when I know I'm dealing with, like, you're under public scrutiny because of a scenario that I put you in. So what can I possibly do to make your life better?
Okay. So are you generally a pleasure seeker rather than a peace seeker? Because men in this position, what ends up happening is they seek pleasure rather than peace. So they would much rather be in a stimulating environment. They need to be excited. They need to enjoy. They need dopamine rather than serotonin. So everything that's pleasure, 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 that's what they're drawn towards. But they actually find peace unsettling. So when things get calmer, when there's not so much dopamine, and it's actually just a slow release of serotonin, they feel discomfort. They're pleasure seekers rather than peace seekers. And even if you see them on their spare time, they can't just sit with themselves and just be at peace. They kind of need some stimulation. They need to be working, they need to be thinking. So if you're a pleasure seeker,
and what she's really talking about here is a lot of narcissistic people with antisocial traits. They have a chronic sense of emptiness and boredom. So they constantly need stimulation. They need excitement. This is one of the reasons why they're constantly creating drama, gossiping about others, because it gives them that spike. They don't like that calmness, as she said, and it's just a matter of how do they go about fixing it? What do? Do they go out and cheat? Do they go out and pick fights? What do they do? But they need that spike. Sometimes it's going to be drug and alcohol. Sometimes it's going to be seeking adrenaline rushes, whatever it is. But it's going to be something.
Seeker as a man, you're going to find that in relationships, that as it becomes peaceful and it turns into a more monotonous relationship, you crave the dopamine, and then it will either lead to fights or replacements.
Wow. I think you broke it all the way down. the only thing I would say, I think in my nature,
Yeah.
the first 40 years of my life, absolutely a pleasure seeker. Like that is who I am in my business, and I'm the jovial. Even one of my therapists said, I'm like, it's like the forever young boy wonder. Like that's optimistic, wide-eyed Peter Pan. Like that's I've like never want to grow up. Happy being young and adventurous. Like that's always been me. But now, because of a lot of my decisions and mistakes and the exhaustion of the life, like now I just want peace.
Now you're getting there.
I think now I'm getting to that space of like, you know what? How can we just calm this down? And that's as a father of 12.
Have you managed to master how to be peaceful, or what? Is it still something?
Nah. Like I think
peace is super easy. All you have to do in order to achieve true peace in your life is every single decision you make sure that there is no chance of any guilt, shame, or regret. Every decision, even your food you eat, is there any guilt, shame, or regret if I eat that? If the amount of alcohol you drink, is there any shame afterwards? Or if there's women that you select, is there any chance that you're going to regret this decision with this woman? If there's any chance of regret, people who have peaceful lives just don't do regrettable decisions. They monitor their choices in their life, and they make decisions on a day-to-day basis that practice self-control so they don't regret the repercussions of their actions. So peaceful is only achieved by the right decisions that you make morning to night in every area of your life, with women, with money, with your food, with your body, everything. They simply make decisions that they won't regret, and they achieve peace in life.
wow.
So that's not a bad suggestion, but here's the other thing. Sometimes people, I think a good cheat day can be good in certain things, or a good vice occasionally, because no one's going to be perfect. Those are things to strive for. I think those are good things to strive for. Oh, in every decision you make, is there going to be something that gives you guilt, shame, regret? Hey, I think that's a good thing to ask yourself.
Can you see how simple she puts it?
Yeah,
Makes
even
it like
your money, like you just spend it in peaceful ways, means just simply you won't regret it. Even if you buy something silly, but you know you can afford it, it's not a regrettable decision. But if it's going to put you at a loss, it's going to cause any regret, you simply don't do it. And particularly with women, the men that suffer the most when it comes to women is they're such pleasure seekers. They seek a woman that they just like, they lust after her. The problem is a lot of the time those women that they lust after, every man lusts after. Yeah, so there's lots of competition, and then they might get the wrong woman pregnant, or they might end up marrying the wrong woman. She's then stealing all his money. She's then releasing videotapes of what they did. She's then extorting him, and this, that, and the other. And they're filled with shame and regret afterwards. They can't have a peaceful life like that.
right.
So if you select women that there's even a 10% chance you're going to regret it, she's going to ruin your life if you get on the wrong side, you can never have a peaceful life. But when you choose women that even at her worst, she still behaves in a way and carries herself in a way that will respect you and your family, you won't regret that woman, and you won't regret that decision. You'll have a peaceful life.
Y'all hear that?
I mean, and that's a big thing too. Actually, I don't disagree with what you just said. I think if you can find a partner that can still respect you when they're angry, that's a huge thing, because there's a lot of people out there that the second they're mad, all respect goes out the window. And then at worst, it's abusive, or maybe they're going to be passive aggressive, or maybe they'll split on you and not like you anymore. But being able to maintain your positive emotions towards somebody, even when you're upset, that's object constancy. That is what people that are narcissistic or borderline, they can really struggle with that, because when they're upset, they can really struggle to see like the whole object, the person that they see that person as someone that, oh, I can still love this person. But no, when they're mad, they don't see that version anymore. They only see the version that they're upset at. And that's why they'll split a lot of times. And that's why they'll go the other direction. And that's why in those relationships, so often it will seem like a push-pull dynamic, because a lot of times that's what's going on. So you want someone emotionally mature that even when they're upset, they're still going to be able to respect you. It's like that one meme that you'll see where there's an old couple where the guy's mad at the woman, but they're sitting on a bench and it's raining, and the man has an umbrella holding it over the woman's head, even though he's mad. That's the meme that demonstrates this.
She just gave us the sauce. She just gave us the keys.
And that's like with these men that date these really a lot younger girls, or the women that they're just trying to have sex with, and then she releases tapes, or she releases this, that, and the other. You probably knew from day one, this girl, if you get on the wrong side, you're going to regret this. You still did it. So now your life is never going to be peaceful when you make regrettable decisions with women.
Let's dig deeper with that, because it's, what is that about? And like, is that ego? Is that sexual desire? Because there's something about men at every stage. Whether they're looking on OnlyFans, whether they're actually, desiring relationships with, as you say, whether it's younger women or even women in a different
demographic, like culture, rate.
Yeah, because even we've even discussed that before too. Because specifically in the Black community, the idea and it makes a lot of sense where it's like you should maintain dating within your community. There's a safety in Black men being with Black women, but for whatever reason, Black men often date outside of their community and have no problem dating, all types of women. So then we get the stigma a lot of times of one not wanting our own Black women, which I don't believe is true at all. But because we make decisions outside of our culture and our right, then we like, oh, well, you wouldn't mess with that white girl. Whatever happens to you, good, good riddance. And it's like
it's your own fault for choosing outside of your culture. But what I would say, and I think this is a really unfair rap that Black men get, is I grew up with lots of Black men. I grew up in London, lots of Black men, and it's not the case of that they like other races or they don't like Black women. It's just that they have access to every other race. Other races want them. Now there are Chinese billionaires.
Say it again. Say it loud.
It's not their fault. Other women want them, and I say this like I'm growing up in London.
I think people of any races, people can want.
I moved to Dubai, and honestly, you can be an Arab girl, Chinese girl, white girl, you can be Hispanic. They'll all date Black men. But now, when it comes to this, Indian men that are billionaires, there are Chinese.
I mean, and who doesn't date white men either, for that matter? I don't know.
These men that are billionaires, they stay in their own race. Now, is that entirely because they, love their race, or is it because they don't have universal appeal? So the fact that Black men are dating outside of their race, it's not because they love other races. I actually think they like Black women more than anything. Yeah. It's just that other women flock to them and don't let them stay within their own race. I really don't. I see so many women whose dream is to have a child with a Black man, or they just want a Black man more than anything else. And they dream about it, they think about it, and even when they date white men, they'll talk about.
Where the heck does Sadia Khan meet these kinds of people? Is this like in Dubai a thing? Like, I don't think I've ever met anyone in my life that said, oh, I specifically want to have a race baby of X, Y, or Z. I've never met someone who said that. But apparently in Sadia Khan circles, that's a common thing. And I'm not sure how much more value there's going to be in this here, but we'll see.
So like, what do you expect? It's not the same. They're not sitting there having conversations with a white guy and saying, can I get a hall pass for a Chinese man? They're not saying that. So is it really Black men choosing white women, or is it that other? I don't believe it's their choice to be with other women. I think other women don't let them live like with just Black women. And I think if you give a Black man a choice, they will usually choose Black women. Yeah. They usually will choose Black women. Or if they go to other races, it's because she has Black women features. It's not really because, so they love their Blackness. It's just that we all love your Blackness. And so you don't get a choice.
I would have to agree with you.
Yeah,
Sadia.
because...
Yeah, and Sadia's blowing up Nick's head here, so he absolutely loves it.
I just don't like even when they say things like, oh yeah, the Black men sleep with so many women and they're never faithful. Sorry, Bob, in your house, you would love to be unfaithful, you just can't. So like, it's just, I think it's not really about Black men. I think it's the appeal they have and the testosterone. And I really think it boils down to masculinity. They exude more testosterone and masculinity than other races. So they become universally desired by women. Now, this is not all women. I'm just saying in general, they have more. You could travel to any country, you join Tinder, girls will match with you. It's not.
I think that is true about testosterone, though, where men that have more testosterone, women are going to be more likely to be attracted to them. It just is what it is. And I know they've done tests where they'll have a guy, they'll have a workout, and then they'll have a shirt that has their sweat on it, and they give women a choice between all these shirts, and they say, who would you rather be with, when they smell the shirt? And almost always they would pick the men that had the highest testosterone, just based on the scent of the shirt, mind you.
Is any country. Now, if you do that same thing as like I don't mean this to stigma, I'm saying this as a South Asian woman. If you say that as a Pakistani man or as a Vietnamese man, you don't have the same luck. So is it really you seeking other women, or are the women seeking you?
So we'll go right back to what I say and what I suffer from in specifically in the space of women, but I think this applies to all types of addiction and just lifestyles, is the access to excess. Is when an individual has the access to as much as he wants, there's gonna be a downfall.
Yeah.
So even with me attempting to find balance and peace, because again, it was all about pleasure up until a certain space where I'm like, all right, I've had it all. I've had the access. I've been that individual to where it's never been a challenge for me to at least get a type of woman. Maybe, you know, of course, individually.
Yeah, of course. But there's no race.
I've got some L's before. You know what I mean? But I was like, I've never had an issue of like, it's just, but that becomes my problem.
Skip to this.
And you're a diagnosed narcissist, and you've been so lucky with women. Isn't that amazing?
I mean,
but that's what because this is my work. What I've noticed is women are far more loving and loyal to men that display narcissism than the nice guy who's just too placid and too passive.
Talk more about that. Tell me why
women
that
are
is.
far more faithful to a
This should be interesting.
narcissistic man than they would be a nice guy, because there's something in a man that, you know, if he wanted to, he would just leave at any point. If you push him too far, he will replace you. It propels a woman to be either meet his needs a lot more, or at least be like in some kind of competition where she works for him.
Is it part of her nature that she just wants to do for her man, and if there's a fear that he may leave and go build this household?
So I think part of what this is here is just human nature in general. Like if someone is afraid to walk away for whatever reason, that does make people less attractive in other people's eyes. But when someone isn't willing to put up with any BS, and at the first sign of red flags or disrespect, they just walk away. When someone knows that someone is capable of doing that, they tend to get treated better. It just is what it is. That's why one of the most important skills of practicing radical self-respect is having the ability to walk away. So few people can seem to do that because maybe they have a fear of abandonment. Maybe they don't want to make someone angry at them. Maybe they don't want to be alone, or maybe they need this other person in their lives to make them feel better about themselves. But whatever it is, they don't walk away. And when they don't walk away, the other person learns, oh, I can treat them however I want, and they're not going to walk away. And then the treatment gets worse and worse and worse. And then the other person, they're stuck. And they're just in this awful position. Now, that doesn't mean they deserve to be treated that way, but there is an element of this in a predator/prey dynamic where predators are going to push the envelope. They're going to see what they can get away with. And if the other person never says no, the other person doesn't put their foot down, the predator is going to keep on pushing, keep on pushing. And this is just an element of the dynamic at play. Now, it doesn't get talked about much, where we talk a lot about the frog in a boiling pot analogy of abuse, which is also true. But I also think the predators pushing the envelope part is also true a lot of times. But this is why it's so important to get rid of those fears of walking away, because when we don't walk away, that's when the real bad stuff can happen. And again, there's reasons for that. Maybe someone's trying to heal one of their attachment wounds as a parent. They had a narcissistic parent growing up, and they find someone that's just like their narcissistic parent, and they're trying to get that love that they never got from the narcissistic parent. Sure, that's an element of it too. But I think the ability to walk away is huge, because it demonstrates we have radical self-respect. And when we are willing to not put up with BS, people tend to treat you better. Before I developed my supplement routine and I had low self-esteem, no confidence, no boundaries, there's a lot of people that treated me like trash. And there's a lot of people that, unless they had good character, they just did what they could do. They did what they could get away with because they knew I wasn't going to do anything about it. But it wasn't until I developed teeth, as Jordan Peterson would say, That is the only thing some people respect. They only respect power. And if you don't have like a certain element of personal power, there are some people that are going to want to use, exploit, and manipulate you. Period. And of course, narcissistic people are going to do that for sure.
Elsewhere that
brings out a better side of him. Wow. Yeah, it brings out a better side because we've evolved to compete for men. We've evolved, like one man goes and gets food and hunts and gathers for like lots of women. So we need to be on the top of the hierarchy if we want survival. So when we know that he hasn't got any options and he's never going to walk away.
You mistreat him.
We treat him like shit. Like, literally, and this is the main
Fellas, are y'all listening to this?
They're treated like shit. And it doesn't mean you have to be narcissistic to a woman in order to get a good treatment. It just means that when she knows that she can get away with bad treatment and you ain't going nowhere, you bring out the worst in her, she'll become the narcissist.
Wow.
So
because I feel like you said something.
And that's not really how it works. But I think what Sadia means is when someone realizes they can get away with anything, people with poor character, they'll maybe treat people poorly because they have poor character. It's not like you're turning into a narcissist. You can't turn into a narcissist. The most that can happen is you can develop narcissistic fleas, but that's very different.
Something similar in reverse, that where if you feel
they have a willingness to walk away.
Yeah.
You behave. This is a key that men have forgotten because, especially in America, they think that you just have to be loving, loyal, everything. And I agree with that. But at the same time, you should be loyal to how a woman treats you, not just because she's a woman. End of story. So if the treatment is bad and she's misbehaving, then there has to be a willingness to walk away. And what modern men have done, and what's really ruined their masculinity, is they don't have boundaries. They are either so narcissistic and have too many boundaries, where they're just like, fuck you, and they just replace her.
Right.
Or they're too warm and loving and have no boundaries. They're like, okay, you can do whatever you want, no problem, no problem, no problem. To get a masculine version of boundaries, you have to simply have the boundaries, but you're still very loving. You're loving, you're good to her, but if she treats you badly, you have a willingness to walk away. If you don't have that willingness to walk away, women can smell it off you and they'll treat you terribly. And the men that have the least willingness.
Yes, and she's absolutely projecting when she says that. She's saying, hey, when I sense that in a man, I'll treat him terribly. So her accusation, a general accusation like this, is really just a confession. Because Sadia clearly has poor character. As we have seen in all of those text messages that were leaked, as we saw in all the comments that were screenshotted, poor character. This is what people with poor character do.
To walk away are the ones that are too lustful after the sex. They worship that woman's sex. And when she knows that you worship her sex and she knows that you can't replace her sex, she gets more and more abusive.
Interesting. So I want to.
Again, that's not generally how that works either. It's like people are generally abusive or they're not abusive. It's not like, oh, it's completely dependent on who I'm with. And if I'm with someone I don't respect, I'm going to abuse them. Yeah, about that, Sadia Khan, not good.
Offer this up because again, like we talking about it, and men and women both have this now. To me, more than ever, is options.
Yeah.
And is that a healthy thing? Because it sounds like what you're saying, it can be healthy because like if I know I have options, like I don't care how good your sex is, like your vagina may be amazing, but it's just she got one too. Like, and that's what I think we even started off with this conversation. Like when you just remove sex or the actual physical act, and or you know that you have options to get that elsewhere, what is keeping?
Well, this is where I think this is where cultural differences matter, because men who are good at sex, they think they're the holder of good sex. So if you're not doing them and if you're treating them badly, he'll go get good sex elsewhere. Men who are not good at sex think it's all about her. And if she's not good to him and she's not working hard, they'll tolerate anything just to keep her because they're not confident in their sexual performance. So the more confident a man is in his sexual performance, the more he has a willingness to walk away because he knows, okay, if you act a fool, no problem.
I think a sexual performance can be an element that someone has of confidence, but it's certainly not the only element. There's other elements too. I mean, some of this is just kind of like bro science here by Sadia Khan. She's just spitballing stuff, like almost pulling it out of thin air. Like she didn't learn any of this in school or anything. She invented some of this stuff and she kind of like makes this ideology to fit like what she's doing.
Another girl who would love to be on this stick. Like, sorry to get rude.
I've said
There's
that
another-
before.
But if you're a man who's terrible at sex, and a lot of men are in this generation because they grew up with pornography, because they've self-induced an erectile dysfunction, or because they feel like it's not big enough, or because they're comparing it to pornography, and they've grown up with taking Viagra from like 19, 18 years old. They're taking Viagra. They've lost their sexual confidence. So what ends up happening is when they're with a woman who abuses them, cheats on them, treats them badly, because they're now walking around with this small D energy, they'll stick there. They'll be, okay, whatever you want, I'll stay with you. So a man's self-confidence is so linked to his sexual performance. And when he is actually low self-esteem, what that really means is he's not confident in his sexual performance, because that will be the determinant of what you tolerate in a woman. If you're good at sex, you'll tolerate very little bad behavior. You're like, okay.
So
I think if a man does value his sexual performance, it's definitely going to help. It's not going to hurt him. Now, is it the only reason for low self-esteem? I don't think it's the only reason, but it doesn't hurt. Like, you see guys that a lot of women like, yeah, it doesn't hurt their confidence in those cases. Not at all.
and how does it work in reverse?
For women?
Like, do women have that? Do they wear their sexuality the same way? Because I mean, what you just said made perfect sense.
Yeah. When,
But does a woman hold value in her good sex
Yeah,
as
especially
well?
in this day and
Like,
age.
if she knows, like, I got
You know, one
the
thing I would
goods,
say-
I'll leave. Because it's not, again, because in the same time, because if a man is promiscuous and knows that he has a bunch of options, he's praised. If a woman's like, I'll go fuck 30 other guys, then at
not
some
that-
point she's gonna be deemed as a whore and all of those things.
But it's the treatment she gets out of those guys nowadays. If she fucks other guys and they're buying her cars, rents, everything, and this is why I know it sounds terrible, but the female equivalent to black men in dating is Latin and Russian women. Why? Because they're fantastic at sex. And that's why they are.
And again, she's like just pulling things out of thin air here. Like, there can be people of any races that can be good at sex.
If your man treats them bad, doesn't pay her bills, isn't treating her right, bye. They fall in love with what a man can offer her rather than him. Because they don't attach any commitment to him. Like, if you're going to treat me badly, you're not going to pay my bills, you're not going to look after me, bye, 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 bye. Because they also have that sexual hierarchy. They're at the top of that.
Wow.
And I don't think people realize how much being sexually desired puts you in a completely different dating pool to everybody else. So Russian and Latin women behave similar to black men.
Right.
You don't act right, bye. You're going to cheat on me, I'll cheat on you with your dad and your brother. What are you going to do about it? So that's how they
Look
move.
at her. And again, more projection by Sadia. And she makes so many sweeping generalizations here. But she says it with confidence. And people who don't know any better, they'll just believe it. Oh, yeah, she must be right about black men. She must be right about Latin and Russian women. But it's like, no, it's just a sweeping generalization.
That's so interesting that you put that, because obviously, even as we get into our next session,
Yeah.
it's about relationships and mastering the relationships. But right now, we're still talking about this idea of mastering women,
Yeah.
in which we really got into the space of mastering your sexuality
Yeah,
and
that's
your
how you master
performance.
women. The key to mastering women is mastering your sexual self-control. And what I mean by that is either you're so good at it mentally and emotionally, you're so good at your performance that you don't put women on a pedestal. You only put the way she treats you on a pedestal. If she treats you great, absolutely, you love her and be loyal to her. If she treats you terribly, no problem, I'll keep it moving. But you can only get that attitude when you're confident in your physical performance.
Now, that part's true, right? If you practice radical self-respect, you're not going to put up with disrespect and poor treatment, because if someone's treating you that way, you keep it moving. And that's what's tricky about Sadia. That's what's tricky about a lot of people, is that it's not that everything they say is wrong. They just mix a whole bunch of nonsense in with some truth. And when they do that, it actually makes it trickier, because it would be easier if just everything they said was completely wrong. And it's the same thing with other narcissists as well. Like, they'll put a paragraph of antagonism, but they'll do what I call like a compliment insult sandwich, where there'll be a compliment, and then the next line will be an insult, and then the next line will be another compliment, and then a passive aggressive jab. And the whole effect is pretty crazy making and confusing. And it's the same thing when someone's going to pull some good stuff and then some complete nonsense, and then back and forth, back and forth. it kind of has a dizzying effect, and it can be crazy making and confusing at the same time.
There are so many men that stay loyal to women who abuse them, treat them badly. And my first question in therapy session is, have you got any erectile dysfunction, or is there something broken? My first question. I'm like, what?
And that's our first question. That's wild.
Why are you taking this nonsense? I love her. I go, no, this has nothing to do with love. There's something broken in your sexual performance. I know that for a fact. Well, I was addicted.
Oh, the old WTF gaslighting. This when someone tells you what you really want, think, or feel. Narcissistic people love to do that. It's obnoxious. And so here she is, like, kind of leading the witness. Oh, you must feel bad about your sexual performance, don't you? And this is where they take the lead, and people that maybe they don't have as strong of a sense of their own reality, they'll start believing her because she sounds confident. She sounds right. And people who are a little more unsure of themselves, they're more susceptible to believing it.
To pornography, and I do sometimes get erectile dysfunction, and she's the only person that can make me ejaculate. I'm like, there you go. You are not confident with replacing her because you don't want to go through the embarrassment again.
Wow.
And I know it because of the energy they give that woman. Is that small d energy, like, please, you can treat me badly, you can cheat on me, no problem, I'm going to stay with you no matter what. That only comes when there's something broken, because a man's because do you know what made me realize this? And I blame black men for this. Because I used to be walking down the street in London, this is obviously when I was younger, and there'd be like, other guys would come to me and they're super nervous around me and blah, blah. And then I'd get a homeless black guy be like, girl, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, where's all this?
The Sadia Khan black person impersonation. And what? That wasn't on my bingo card for the day.
Confidence coming from? I couldn't understand it. He would approach me.
BD energies.
And I'm like, what's wrong with you? How dare you come up to me?
That black dominant energy.
And that was mask off Sadia there. How dare you come up to me because you're a homeless bum. You're not on my level. I need to be on other special and high statuses people, celebrities level, like Nick Cannon, not some homeless bum.
So much like, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, who are you talking to? They're like, girl, you know what? And it was
you know what I ain't got no house, but I can tear that ass up.
And I couldn't believe he had the audacity to even come to me and then ask me for $1 afterwards. I was like, what is going on? And I realized it's because men
good for them. I'd give the dude $5 just for doing that to Sadia.
Consciously know their goal when they're talking to women is to get them in bed anyway. So when he comes to you with confidence, it's because in his mind he knows when he gets you there you'll be fine, you'll be good. But the men that come with you nervous, what they're really signaling is when it gets to that stage, I'm going to be nervous, I'm going to be anxious, I'm not sure if you'll like it.
Wow.
So they give off this energy which they don't realize is so linked to their performance, and they don't realize. And this is why modern,
and there can be an element of truth in that too. I think if someone is fully aware that they're a great catch and they're great in every aspect of life, that's going to shine through. But if you have like weaknesses or vulnerabilities or insecurities, those will shine through as too. So I do think there's some truth in that.
Men are hardly sleeping with women, are so nervous, are totally simping over girls and tolerating so much. It's because they've hijacked their sexual performance by the use of pornography. They're growing up with it, and so they can't perform well.
I keep hearing that, like, I've been hearing this theme over and over about how pornography is literally ruining the generations
completely.
And you're talking specifically in the space of like confidence and their sexual prowess, but even more so of like what it does to the mind and this is wow.
It ruins them, and what it does is that they start really young. So they firstly get hijacked by it. They're using their hand rather than using a vagina to practice. So when they do meet a woman, it doesn't feel anything like what they're used to. They can't perform, they get all this anxiety, they start taking testosterone. Women are very clear when they're not happy with you in that area. When you can't get an erection, they'll make you feel really bad. So what these men end up doing is turning to escorts.
Sadia will make you feel really bad. Correction. Not all women, but Sadia for sure.
They're constantly paying for sex because they're paying for her silence. They're paying for her lack of feedback. They don't want her to say that was shit. They want to, so they're paying
for her lack of feedback.
That's what they're truly. And then
on a side note, though, addiction to pornography is absolutely a thing, and especially since there's so much access to it, it's just on everyone's phone. It's one click away, and that's definitely an issue. It's one of the silent addictions out there, right? Where drugs and alcohol a little more blatant. Even gambling is a little more blatant because you can see it in someone's bank account. But pornography, a little more hidden. It's a little more behind closed doors.
They'll say, "Oh, we're just paying her to leave," and I was like, "That's not true. You would beg her to come back if you could. If you could afford her, you should be there every day. You're pretending you're paying for her to leave, but truly,
Paying her not to judge you.
yeah, you're paying for her silence, because if it was truly, look, and again, this is where I use black men as an example sometimes to my clients. I was like, do you think that a lot of the time they don't even pay? They just get on Tinder and they'll tell a girl, come to my house. They don't even pay
And
for a
they
date.
pull up.
They pull up. And I said, you go to your local gym, there'll be a Tyrone that is sleeping with your wife for free, and she's paying for his protein shakes. And it's terrible.
Yeah, you're going crazy right now.
I grew up in London, you can tell, right?
Nah, but that,
I'm sorry, like, Vikram, I know you bought her a house and you bought her a car and everything. She's sleeping with Tyrone and paying his bill. And it's terrible. And it's because...
It's reality.
These two are wild. It's almost over here, but I've had about enough of them.
You pay for a woman's silence when you're paying for escorts. You're paying for her not to judge you. You're paying for her to accept your poor performance, and you're paying for her not to tell anybody else. Wow. Whereas when you are a man who has sexual confidence, you want the free publicity. When you sleep with a girl, you want her to talk about it.
Tell everybody.
You're like, tell your friends. You want the free publicity.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, this session just blew my mind. In so many ways. I mean, you were just speaking so many truths, and I don't think a lot of people have heard it that simple or that overt. But what's interesting, and as we get to our last and final session, is I think you said it. It was like this is a different type of relationship when a person is sexually desirable.
Yeah.
And that's it sounds like the average person isn't that.
The average
person isn't going around having all of the women that they want or having all of the men that they want. The average person is seeking monogamy. The average person is seeking a healthy relationship which
I agree with. It's good for them.
That they can find, their person, their partner. A lot of people believe in soulmates, and hopefully if they find that person who is their person, all of these things that we're talking about that may be insecurities will find a balance, and you'll find a woman who loves you for whatever your sexual performance is, and you'll find a man who desires you, and you're equally yoked in that balance. So I would love in our next session, because you just blew my mind in this session, but to kind of find that common ground and that balance of what the everyday individual
to get that loving relationship
is getting there. Because individual like me, I think you were speaking to me in these first two sessions in such a way to where it's like, oh, a lot of this is definitely clicking. But I've also have the understanding that I don't live the ordinary life.
Yeah, this is something.
I've never lived an ordinary life. I've had access to excess since I was a teenager, and so the way I move throughout the world and the universe isn't the same as a person who may not have the confidence. As an individual who really just desires one partner. And the picket fence lifestyle. They want 2 kids and a dog, and they're fine with that being life. So I think as we get into the final master is mastering a relationship. I feel like it would help me as well, because even though I don't desire that, I do understand that is the status quo. I do understand that the majority of the people that are watching this want a husband, want a wife, and they want to be faithful to their husband. They want to be faithful to their wife. So we'll tap into that, because as you...
All right. That is enough of that. Oof. I don't know if there's much value in that for that session. It's really just all for entertainment purposes, but hopefully you were able to get some value from me breaking it down there, because as far as what they were going about, I mean, Sadia said a couple things I agree with, but for the most part, off the wall. Off the wall. And Rhodes, by the way, what did Dr. Eatonson say on Brad Carr's show? I did not watch that yet, but I will. I will watch that in preparation. I will watch that on preparation for Salerno and Eatonson. And Kat, your username says something else, not Kat, which is very confusing. Lady from the mountains. Lady from them mountains. I guess that's your username now, Kata. Yeah, but that is what is on the agenda here. So it's going to be November 10th. I'm speaking to them. So it'll either be later that day or the next day. I upload that. 2 days after that, I'm going to be on Mark Vicente's show. That's something to take a look out for. And then what else? Nothing else is scheduled. I've been reaching out to different people, though. I had Dr. W. Keith Campbell. He ruffled some feathers. One of the next ones is this guy who wrote a book called The Cult of Trump. I'll see if I can get him on the show just to even out the scales there. And there are going to be other people I invite on the show, too. But what did you all think of Nick Cannon and Sadia there? Recorded, Phil Bradley. This is recorded, of course. This is AI. Oh, and speaking of AI, you want to see something wild? Have you all seen this new Gangsta Paradise AI song? It sounds, you would never be able to tell it's AI. It's out of control. Rhodes says, the comments under that interview are interesting. Eatonson is an MPD apologist. So yeah, that's the thing with Eatonson, right? He does defend narcissism. He does defend the image of narcissism, and he wants to give it a more compassionate take, which I understand to an extent, but it should really just be for the narcissists themselves. That message isn't necessarily helpful to the people that have been victimized, I don't think. I think it's helpful for the people that have been abused to hear that, because they risk staying stuck if they listen to his message. So while I don't disagree with everything he says, but ultimately, if your goal is to help the victims of abuse, then I don't know if that's the best message. That's my thought. I think Salerno's message is and my message for that matter, it's a better message for the people that have been victimized. Now, when I say the narcissist does this or narcissists do that, is that a perfect thing to say? No, it's not a perfect thing to say, because there can be nuance. Not all narcissists are going to be exactly the same. There's different levels of severity and there's different types. Sure, all of that is true. But when we're trying to help the victims, you got to keep it as simple as possible. You can't have a 10-page disclaimer for every short video that you make or for every post that you make. That's just not how it works. You're not going to do that, because you would lose people. And part of this also is a business. The business of helping people, the business of creating content. Dr. Edenson's niche is helping more of the people that are narcissists. Hey, that's a business in and of itself. And I'm not saying he shouldn't do that, but I'd also be curious, like the results of the narcissists that go to see him. So for example, Cluster B Milkshake, who I interviewed on the channel, she goes to him. I'll be curious how that goes. There's other people that have gone to him as well. I'll be curious how that goes for them. But again, like I always say, if you're a self-aware narcissist and then you're developing hundreds of thousands of social media followers, feeding your grandiosity, I don't necessarily see how that's going to help you. But one thing that does help, that's actually proven they have found, 12-step programs. 12-step programs, because a lot of what they teach is the antidote to narcissism, honesty and humility, and they are anonymous programs. Anonymous does not feed your grandiosity for the very most part. You, Salerno, and George Simon have been the most helpful voices in my recovery. Ah, happy to hear that, Rhodes. I love it. Ellie is your name, though, too, right? Yes, cause empathy and hope can people. I don't believe we should forgive narcissists, or it enables them and doesn't help them or us. Yeah, I mean, I think letting go of resentment is one thing, and forgiving them doesn't mean you'd have to let them back into your life. I think you can forgive if you want to, but I don't ever tell someone they should. Like, I do think it's helpful to let go of resentment, though. But again, if a narcissist gets forgiven after being horrible and then they don't change their behavior, that person doesn't deserve forgiveness. Do all narcissists cheat? Many of them absolutely do. Now, a cerebral narcissist that maybe isn't as into sex, maybe they might not. But for the most part, most of them are going to cheat because most of them want narcissistic supply. Most of them are like Nick Cannon. That's the bottom line. Well, again, it's not going to be completely black or white, but most of them will. Cluster B Milkshake was gassing him up in the comments. Oh, I'm sure. So she's demonstrating her changed behavior, right? That's how much she's different. She's changed and not antagonistic anymore. And false. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. The resentment is hard for me to let go of. He knowingly wasted the majority of my life. Yes, truly letting go of resentment is very difficult. I'm not going to pretend like it's easy. But that's why forgiveness and resentment both, letting go of them, it's something that can't be rushed. Because if you try to rush that process because you think you should or someone else is trying to get you to, it's not going to be genuine. It's not going to be authentic. And then what's going to happen is something's going to happen and you'll realize, oh, I really don't forgive them. I'm really still upset. So, like, if you ever even think about reconciling with someone, I'm not saying a narcissist, but anyone you want to reconcile with, you better be truly sure that you're really over it. You're really over it. You do truly forgive them, because a lot of people think they forgive, but they really don't. And then the resentment boils back up, and then the relationship gets sabotaged for another reason. That's why they do. Time wasters. Oh, they're experts at wasting time, that's for sure. Especially when they try to be friends after they sabotage your relationship. Don't do it. It will enable their BS. I walked away. Yes. Good work. You don't want to. Once the trust is broken with a narcissist, there is no coming back from that, in my opinion. Like, I've never had somebody that has lost my trust, like, fully get back in. It just doesn't happen. I just don't do it, because once you're out, you're out. Like, it takes me a long time to get to that place a lot of times, but once I'm there, there's no coming back from that. Sure, after just sex, sure, but not like a narcissist, no. Old Fritz, welcome. No more, we got some music lyrics here. No more turning away from the weak and the weary. No more turning away from the coldness inside. Just a world that we all must share. It's not enough, just stand and share. Aha! I like it. Although, what's your favorite Pink Floyd album? I like Wish You Were Here and Dark Side of the Moon. Maybe followed by Animals and Comfortably Numb. Do you think narcissists always watch us online, offline after a breakup? Often. Very often, for sure. But it also depends on what their status is with new sources of supply. If they're really like involved with one, maybe not as much. But even if they do have a source of supply, they still might try to stalk their exes. Like, they're never truly over it a lot of times. They can circle back for years and years. The Hoovers never end sometimes. You can't remain friends? I've done it. My ex cloned my phone and put a tracker on my vehicle. Yes, I've heard that. My friend Kelly, also known as P-Dubs, she said some things happened like that. There's no limit to what they will do. There's truly no limit. My office feels cluttered over here, I'll tell you. So one of the next live streams I'm going to do, we're going to go over Erica Kirk, because there's been some wild stories about Erica Kirk. And I might come to her defense a little bit. I'll come to her defense a little bit, spoiler alert, which might make some people upset. But it'll be interesting because I'm seeing all sorts of stuff. A lot of uncharitable interpretations, I'll say. Now, granted, I do think there was some shady stuff going down with that whole Charlie Kirk thing. But, well, yeah, I'll save it for the stream because it'll be interesting. What has Erica Kirk done? Well, some people think she might have been behind the assassination. I don't think that, but there seems to be a lot of people who do think that. And then certain other people think certain countries were behind it, and I don't know if that's true either. But people are jumping to all sorts of conclusions. But the one thing I will agree with is the official narrative of the story. I think that is BS. That is BS. And then, but everything else from there, people are jumping to conclusions. But like where the bullet came from, what gun was used, I think that was all BS. Oh, there's some crazy stuff. Oh, there is. There is some crazy stuff. I just don't know what. I don't necessarily think it's what everyone thinks, but I will agree there's some crazy BS. But that's the thing though. Now we're in an era where people just believe the wildest things because they look at the history, and some conspiracies have absolutely been proven to be true. But the problem is, not everything is a conspiracy. There certainly is a fair amount. I'm not going to say there's not. But then I think people take it too far and they don't know where the line is. When is the stream going to be on, Erica? Tomorrow night or the next night. Maybe tomorrow night. Yeah, this would be interesting because I hear all this stuff. Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. Israel did it. It's like, I don't know. Well, that's what some people would say, Ellie, but there's a lot of people talking about it. I don't think what I would say would ruffle any feathers. Surprisingly. I mean, Eric Kirk's a little bit older than Charlie, but I mean, they're married and he's the father, or he was the father of her children. So, I mean, basically people are accusing Erica Kirk of basically being a psychopath. And that's what I'm going to go over. Did he really? Tucker Carlson. He called Nick Fuentes a little gay kid in his basement. Did they get along or were they fighting? Because, I mean, let's face it, Nick Fuentes is probably the most popular voice on the right now. Right, him, Tucker, and Candace, probably the top three. We'll see. We'll see about all that. I'll have to watch that then, Rhodes. I'll have to watch that. And I'll have to report back to you. Dude, there's so many channels now that they go over Nick Fuentes' streams and they make a killing just from breaking down his streams. It's wild. Oh, Lord. But hopefully you got some value there from me breaking down Sadia and Nick Cannon there. They get hard to listen to after a while. So there might be one more. I only went over this one because there was a few things about narcissists cheating and how they like supply and what women will do sometimes. But again, it's not about women per se. It's about people treat others differently when that person respects themselves. Some people will try to do what they can get away with. They'll push the envelope. So that's why here I teach you all to practice radical self-respect. So no one's going to do that to you. They can try, but you're armed. You're armed and dangerous and empowered to walk away, have boundaries, or be assertive. That's the goal. He had good morals, but antagonistic in his delivery and looked down on others. Who? Charlie? I mean, Charlie, let's face it, he was a conservative recruiter. That's what he was. But his goal was to recruit younger people to the conservative side. So everything he said and did was with that aim in mind. So, and that includes what they decide to focus on. A lot of the manipulation is even just in what you decide to focus on if you're a news agency. Remember that. The wizard will not lead you astray here. I will lead you to the middle ground. I will lead you to using your head so you can see through all of the BS. Because don't get it twisted. There's BS everywhere. There's BS on all of the sides. Don't ever let someone tell you there's not. There is. So I would agree with that, George, but I won't be, no spoilers. No spoilers. But all right, that's about it for tonight. I got to do a consultation here. Someone missed it and then got back to me during the stream. But Old Bear, George, Kat, Ellie, Bear, Old Bear, Rhodes, great to have you all in the chat. And I'll be back again before you know it. Over and out. Thanks, Jolly. I almost forgot Jolly. How can I forget that? Good night, Jolly.